959 on the street and on the air. It is the Hive with me, Bonolo BSting. And you know what? My heart is warming up because right next to me is a gentleman who is, like, your profile is quite long. Let me start. You are into theater, television, interactive media. You're a creative producer, a writer, director. You've been involved in the industry for over a decade. Ladies and gentlemen, Clive Mathibe.
And the crowd goes,
Wow! Dali!
Dali,
Trevor!
thank you so much for having me. You know, I haven't been on Kaya in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I was so excited when you guys called, and I'm so glad and honored to be here. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Lovely stuff. Now, I want to find out from you, Clive. Television, theater, and interactive media. Which is your favorite?
Oh my God.
And why?
It is so hard to answer that question because I think as creators, especially creators or creatives rather, who are multidisciplinary in their approach, who don't just work in one medium, we shift. You know, our spirits shift and need to express themselves in a different way. So today I might actually need to do theater or feel like this is time for me to do theater and go into that medium because after I do theater, then my artistic kind of mind is revived so I can go and do television, you know? So I always say the one thing always feeds into the next, into the other, into the next. So for me, they're all very important and important in who I am as an artist and in just kind of how I express myself as an artist and in my sphere, you know, in my biosphere as an artist. I need to do theater, I need to do television, any way that I can express myself. And now I'm even more interested in doing projects with visual artists, for example, and photographers. I'm working on a very exciting project with Arthur Dlamini, who took those iconic images of Simpiwe Dana.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, I don't know if you've seen
I
those
saw them
images.
with the
Oh
hair
my
and the
God. Oh my
stunning.
God. And before Simpiwe, he took those beautiful images of Mandise Junkies and Zorin Dicha. So Arthur has been kind of like so important to profiling who we are as black performers and black live performers, you know, whether it is in jazz or in theater or whatever it may be, you know. So after he came and dropped by at a theater production I was doing last year, a Pulitzer Award-winning production called Ruined at the Market Theatre on the iconic John Carney stage. He came and he was not even there to take photographs of me. He was just there, had been invited, but as photographers would have it, he travels with his machine gun or his camera everywhere.
Yes.
So this guy, he's just sitting in the back there, chilled in J, taking pictures. After the show, he shows me these images. I'm like, what? You know, because I had a photo shoot on the stage before the actual show on opening night with my own photographer, and I love him so much.
Yeah.
But I didn't even end up using those images because, like, Arthur Dlamini came through and, you know, and that birthed a project that we're going to be doing together titled Asnavalo, you know, and Asnavalo is basically about queer bodies who are occupying spaces boldly that they said we would never be safe in.
Yeah.
So we want to collaborate. We're collaborating with fashion designers who are going to be giving me outfits, and we're going to be going to those places that they said were unsafe for us. So we're talking Cape Flats with tutus and bold colors. We're talking like Hostela.
Yes.
We're talking like all these dangerous places that we're going to change the narrative and just take these amazing images. And we're calling the project Asnavalo. So that's just one of the things, just coming back to your question, that, you know, for me, it's just about expression. You know, today it might be a song, tomorrow it might be a script of theater, the next day it might be a collaborative project with a dancer or a photographer or a visual artist. So whatever way I can express myself as an artist, and whatever medium I can use to actually tell stories, because at the end of the day it's about telling stories.
You are just oozing
then I just do
creativity for
it.
days, man.
Yeah.
Now, Clive, we know that you've been the creative producer for the following. Please be seated for this one. The Mbogota Awards, the Feather Awards, and of course the Nelson Mandela Centenary Theatre Show. Can you just give us a description of what a creative producer does? Because a lot of people, when you say a creative producer, thinking, okay, you're not producing, there has to be a difference.
Right. I think, I started off as a creative director because I come from a theater background. I naturally veered into like live shows. So I used to be a creative director for live shows like the Metro FM Awards. I've worked on the SAFTAs. I've worked on the Bogota Awards. I've worked on the Feather Awards. So I would be the guy that is called to say, okay, what is going to happen on stage? How do we conceptualize these performances? What collaborations are we doing? And what stories are we telling through the stage production that we're staging? So that would be what I do as a creative director, is come up with those concepts. And recently we did the Joburg Film Festival, which I'm super proud of, a project that we partnered with MultiChoice. So we were creative producing there. So I started off as just the ideas guy, right? And because I also write the ideas guys that puts it on paper and that then also executes it on stage. And then I moved to not just being the ideas guy, but being the producer. So the guy that would say, this is what needs to happen. And my clients would say, so this is the budget. So make sure that you make it within this budget, So now it became my problem that I would make shoestring budgets have to work. So, so being a producer, who's a creative producer, now your responsibility is to make sure that you're contracting your artists, to make sure that from a creative point of view, you know who your collaborators are in terms of your set designer, in terms of your musical director, in terms of your props master. So you're doing the behind and in front, and you're doing scheduling of all the artists. So you're not just a creative, right? You're bringing your producing side of it, and then after you produce all of those things, all of those elements, then you take off that hat and you get inside the rehearsal room and you put it all together. And when you get off the rehearsal room, then you go to the venue. Then now you're dealing with technicians, you're dealing with audiovisual people, you're dealing with everything that happens when you move a production from a small rehearsal space into the venue. So in a nutshell, I would say a creative producer is a combination of a creative director or somebody that conceptualizes from a creative point of view what happens on stage in terms of storytelling for whatever production it may be, and somebody who is then at the back end also doing a lot of producing work that involves contracting, that involves logistics of a production. So it's bringing those two things together. Yeah.
Your brain, my friend. Look, the entertainment industry, as much as we love it, we know that there's a lot of challenges. What are some of those challenges that you've experienced?
I think some of the challenges, the big one, obviously, is that we're not regulated. Having had the opportunity to work in countries like Canada and cities like Toronto, and in Dubai and in Paris, you realize
Come on, honey.
You realize that those industries are so formalized, right? Like actors and artists in America, for example, and in Canada have equity, something called equity, right? So you can't act in the industry, whether it's on stage or screen or in advertising, without being a member of equity, because that's how you're recognized as a professional crafter. So even the amount of money that you're going to be paid is going to be according to your level of experience and your level of education, and already going into productions because you've got equity behind you, right? Now our industry is infiltrated now, especially in the advent of social media. We've got influencers who are coming in and taking actors' jobs. We've got people, and there are great things about social media, but with the greatness comes a lot of downfall, because a lot of us, or a lot of kids go to study this thing. They go to study music. They go to study to become practitioners in the arts. But they come out in an industry in South Africa that is not regulated, where, there is no control of who comes and practices in this industry, where it's a free for all, basically. So it's come to a stage where people are just like, is it even worth going to study? And I mean, my answer would be yes, it's still very much worth going to study, because studying sets you apart from everybody else. But those are the challenges. And I think another challenge, as I start working a lot more and more with brands and corporate brands, I'm realizing that brands want to use the creative industry, but they don't really understand how the creative industry works. And they're applying a marketing thinking and way of working to the creative industry. So right now, I think there needs to be that conversation between brands and between marketers and the creative industry, especially entertainers and crafters. You find that you are providing like an industrial theater or corporate theater work for brands, and they don't understand that you can't just go onto stage without having to write a script, and that a script takes like a certain amount of days to be written, and that you can't just cast an actor from Isibaya just because you like them or you think they're famous to come and do a medium of theater that requires a forum theater technique, for example, to kind of work in that space. You can't do that. So I'm finding it that brands, especially brands, corporate brands, are not understanding, and they're imposing marketing way of thinking onto how the creative industry should work.
I'm going to agree with you, because what I've realized is that, as you're saying, some corporates tend to look at, they think you're selling a product.
Yes.
And you are actually selling human interaction.
Yes.
That's where they get it wrong. And selling a product and human interaction, two totally different things.
Right. So those are the things that I think, need to happen. But I think the biggest one is just living in a non-regulated industry. And obviously when that happens, you find things like, if Clive says no to a voiceover, to Ranta, Bonolo is gonna come and she's gonna say yes to it
for 50 cents.
For 50 cents. So those are part of the things that don't really make us grow. And we're in an industry of sharks. So, and it's about the lowest price all the time. It is coming to a stage where people are understanding that a Bonolo will never give, nobody else will give a service like Bonolo. But it takes a very long time for us to build our brands to that, where people understand that it is worth paying this much, and that it's actually 50 rands and it's not 50 cents, But it shouldn't have to take that, because not all of us want to be celebrities. Not all of us want to have many followers and trend and whatever. We're not all here for that. In fact, behind the people who are trending is a whole industry of people who are building those people up, who require to be respected, and the respect needs to also translate into the paper that comes in with it. So those are the things that I think still need to come. I mean, there are clients who still don't understand why they need to pay management fees. When they're people who look at your line item for a production that you're quoting for, and they don't understand why you have runners, or why you have a production assistant, or why do you have an editor, and you also have somebody who's a logger as well. Like, why do you have so many people, or who are these people and what do they do? So we're still having to justify ourselves and the process of how we make our work, which for me is something
It's
that
a problem,
really
Nick.
is a problem. Yeah.
Is there? Do you know there's another challenge that I think that we have in the entertainment industry of gatekeepers, in the sense that, oh, Bonolo kganne go e dira. The next job, a re mo fe yone, and speaks to somebody else. Or no, close.
That happens a lot, but I always say with gatekeepers, there's only so much they can do,
Yeah.
because like they're not the ones that brought you here, right?
Amen.
They didn't give you the gift.
Amen.
They didn't bring you to even that gate that they're trying to close.
Yeah, never gonna
So,
buy
my love. Gate e o le bona a ba se bo re fihle jwang go gating eo.
E tlo buleha.
E tlo buleha. So I always say with people like that, it's fine. Somehow, some way, we always just tend to transcend and get over those things. They can't gatekeep you for
Forever.
There's so many actors that will tell you, now I was banned go SABC, or I was banned go Kai. But now their careers are like even better, you know? So you can only do it for a certain amount of time. And for sometimes we should even be thankful we're being gatekept from certain spaces, because it's a blessing, because you don't want to be working with people like that in any case, and in those kind of environments. So gatekeepers,
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Your work has been seen internationally, as you were talking about it earlier on, such as Burn, which is a documentary video which was screened at the New York Times, at New York City Times Square, darling.
Yes.
How was that experience?
That was incredible.
New York Times Square.
Yeah, before it was a big deal, before Instagram.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. So I used to work on a show called Living Land. It's an agricultural magazine show on SABC2. One of the things that I love doing is making agricultural content, because I'm passionate about food security and young people in agriculture. I think there's so many opportunities. During that program really made me realize what it means when we say bring back the land. I understand bringing back the land, but once we get the land, what are we going to do with it? So post that, I really got passionate about issues of the land and how do we actually make sure that as Black people we produce food and we get a piece of the commercial pie, because the industry agriculture has got so much money and is contributing so much to the economy, but like so many other industries that we're not aware of, because we're saturated in construction, in entertainment, we are not there as Black people. That industry is still very much a white industry. And we are also exporting to so many countries. Our industry, agriculture, contributes to the food security of so many countries around the world. So there's so many job opportunities for young people there. And agriculture doesn't mean you need to get down and dirty and be the one that actually works the land. There's so many technologically advanced ways of farming now that requires other skills other than you being on the actual land and working the soil. So I got so passionate about that. I'm also producing independent content on YouTube called Meet the Farmer, which is about profiling young agriculturalists. So I got into this opportunity with the World Bank all those years ago. God, I don't even remember when that was. So and they were looking for content makers who were going to create content about food security and about climate as it relates to climate change. And so I created this piece of content and we put it in, and then I just kept on there were elimination processes, so it just kept on getting bigger and bigger, and the next thing I know, it was selected to be one of those projects to be screened at Times Square. That was amazing.
Lastly, Clive Mathibe, what can we expect from you in the future?
Oh my gosh. Honey, I don't even know what's happening to me tomorrow. So And that's been the adventure of my life, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, there's so many things that I plan to do. I mean, I've told you about the project with Arthur Dlamini. That's
Yes.
something to look out for. But the beauty of my life so far has been the surprises, right? Has been that I always say God has got my diary.
Amen.
You know, and I mean, there are projects that are standing projects that I do every year. We've just done High Lapping, the inaugural High Lapping project, which we launched along with Packoffs at the Free State. We hope to be doing that in the next 3 years. I do, obviously, with the Tammy Dish Foundation, the Feather Awards, and with Carol Bauer Productions, the Mbogoto Awards. So we just did an exciting project with the American Embassy called By Any Means Necessary, I Write What I Like, which brings together the South African struggle of apartheid and the civil rights movement through Malcolm X and a conversation that never happened between Malcolm X and Steve Biko. So we are currently working on that project. And the actors we worked with were Batsile Ramasodi and Nyani Sotzeze, who was in Beyonce's Black is King. So we performed the pilot of that to an intimate audience during Black History Month at the Market Theatre in February, to a resounding success. So that is a project that I know people can really look up for or look out to. So in terms of theater, and then the rest is just like
It's in
God's
God's
things.
hands.
It's in God's hands, you know. Yeah.
Clive Mathibe, thank you so much for coming through to the Hive. And today we wanted to celebrate you.
Thank you.
It's important for us here on the Hive and on Kai 959 that we give flowers to people whilst they're still alive, you know, and continue doing what you're doing, trailblazing all over the world. And thank you so much, and all the best.
Thank you so much. I love this show so much. And I feel so much cooler after being on this show because the music gives me life.
Yes,
you know? So thank you for having me. I honor you. I am so grateful to be here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is, of course, the one and only Clive Mathibe. Trust you me, that's a name that's going to be known all over the world, if not already. So do make sure that you tune in on The Hive, on Kaya 959, on the street and on the air.